What are the most powerful leadership shift you could make? Start it with your heart, not your position. In today's episode, we're talking through key themes from John Maxwell's High Road Leadership, but I'm also joined by a special guest from my mastermind who's sharing her raw, real testimony of how God completely changed her life. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to lead with purpose and healing, this conversation is for you. Today I'm joined by Luz Veronica Solis. She's a wife, a mom, a faith-driven content creator who uses her platform to encourage and uplift women through the lens of faith, fitness, and motherhood. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my God, how exciting. I'm here for the second time, but praise God because I get to hang out with you again.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just here. Hopefully God this time, whatever comes out of my mouth can touch someone's heart, and I can encourage people and just share my story.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, we tried recording this about 2 weeks ago. Baby was fuzzy and it just wasn't flowing. And now she's back, thankfully. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. And so only God knows why I'm back a second time. Maybe what's gonna come out today is what really people needed to hear. So yeah. I'm honored to be here and just sharing time with you and just telling my story.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously it is God, but our intention was to talk about the book and higher leadership and kind of summarize it. But then you started telling me about your testimony, and I was like, wait, that's way more powerful.
So it kind of shifted I think that my testimony goes in with the high road leadership, and so that's why we kind of made a twist, but it all flows and it goes, and maybe it was my time to share my story so that others can hear it. So I'm nervous, but I'm excited, and God has all the control today.
Yeah, you're going to do great. You were, like I mentioned, you were part of the mastermind.
Yes.
And we saw, we had different strengths, all the women that were a part of it. And I remember yours was speaking. We're like, you speak very well.
As much as I get nervous in front of the camera, I do talk a lot and I do enjoy it. So I'm nervous now. You may not even be able to notice, but yes, I do like to speak. So one thing that you have told me is that I have a gift in my speaking, and even though sometimes I don't want to see it, I think it's time for me to start using it, and so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited to see what all you do with it.
Thank you so much.
For those of you who don't know, we're starting another program, so we'll see what
we
else
start
comes
tomorrow,
out of it.
And I'm sure it'll be powerful and just so much more to learn.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so how would you describe a high road leader?
So I know that the way that I think about a high road leader, I always think about Jesus. And I think we talked about that in the mastermind as well. And he would probably be the best high road leader that there ever was on earth. So it's just basically doing what's right, even if it's hard. And I mean, for us that we're on this spiritual path, and I'm sure others that are listening, it's not easy and you get tested a lot. But that is what comes with following him. And so mainly is doing what's right, and even regardless of your feelings, of your emotions, it's just doing what's right all the time. Yeah,
and that's definitely not easy.
It's not,
especially when someone wrongs you, and you don't always want to take the high road.
So I think it's more of like, I know this book talks about your motives and so many different things, and it's true. At the end of the day, it's people, circumstances, environments, they will make you want to go and treat people the same way that they treated you, or just go on that low road. And I know we discussed it as you're literally driving and you kind of go to the left and to the right, and I guess walking with God would be kind of going straight, but we all know that we kind of go side to side, but it's always going back on that middle part, which would be considered the high road, and just going back to him for his guidance to help you in those difficult moments, because I think those difficult moments are what really defined your position with your spirituality and your closeness to him.
Absolutely. So to talk a little bit about the way he breaks it down, it down into the high road, the middle road, and the low road. And the high road, he says, it's someone who values people, someone who wants to help people without, trying to get something in return. They bring people together that don't divide people. What else?
Yes, it's just someone that always does. The high road is someone that always does what's right. I believe the middle road is more transactional. Like, if you treat me good, I'll treat you good. But if you don't, I won't.
They look for that win-win. Like, I'll help you, but I have to get my win too.
Right. And I think like the high road is more of giving more than receiving. And then middle road is transactional. And then low road is just kind of like, it's all about me. You know, I guess going over people to get where you want to go and just doing basically most of the things incorrectly. So
yeah, and this is the kind of person that they're like, they just take like, how can I benefit?
Right.
Yeah. And then, you know, we talked about different examples, you know, because we've all either been on on all three roads, and we also know people who have been on all three roads. But then also it's important to have boundaries as well. Correct. We don't want to become doormats, which is, you know, people talk about Jesus, but then there were times where he did get mad, and he did turn tables. So I think it's also important to kind of have that in mind and know how to balance that.
Right. And I think that's one thing that I learned through my journey of getting to know you and just this mastermind overall, because I think the book does start very firm, and it kind of reminds me back to like the Bible. So I'm barely in the book of John, and I started, you know, from the very beginning, and the Old Testament had just had me crazy, like, wait, hold on, I don't get it. But I feel like as you keep reading, some things you probably won't understand still until eventually God just puts the pieces together. But what I'm trying to get to is that the book started very like, you know, you have to value everybody, and you just have to, you know, be respectful and so on. But as you keep reading the book, he also comes in and brings in boundaries and brings in like the do's and the don'ts, and that you don't have to put up with this or put up with that. And I remember, because initially I feel like I've always been in some sort of connection with God. It's just because of how I was raised. But there are moments when you shift away, and then at this point I feel like I'm the closest I've been. But before I started going back to being super close to God, I had gone on a personal development journey, and which is what we always discuss. This started like 4 years ago, and I kind of feel like in the personal development, oh my God, I just lost train of thought what I was going to say. Right, I guess I wanted to connect like how whenever you focus on just one part of the Bible, like it'll say, you know, like God is forgiving or love one another. But then if you keep on going on the Bible, then you're actually going to see as well, he says, take care of your environment. And, you know, who do you surround yourself with is what's going to make you, and so on. So I think that it's like you have to look at the entire picture and not just focus on like one Bible verse or one part of the book, because boundaries are very important. And I think sometimes, you know, they're not looked at. I think they're looked bad upon, like whenever you say that boundaries, but your environment matters. All of those things matter. And so yeah, I think I don't know. That thought threw me off like crazy, and it's gonna come back.
No, but that's also like how a lot of people focus on turn the other cheek. Jesus said turn the other cheek, and then they're like, but Jesus is loving. Jesus, like, they paint him out to be like this hippie. And to me, I'm like, yes, Jesus is
like he
love,
just takes it all. Like you can do whatever you want, and he's going. In a way, it kind of like enables you to go and mess up or like go and sin, and that doesn't mean that like, you know, we're not perfect, and it's a journey and things are hard. But I feel like it's more of like saying, it's kind of like fitness, like, okay, it's hard, but still do it. That way you can, you know, get some sort of results, instead of like whenever they enable like it's okay to be, you know, unfit, or it's okay to be, you know, not take care of your body or not make healthier choices just because he's still going to love you anyway. It's kind of like those things to where it's like, okay, he's going to love you regardless. And I know one time you posted something about, which I loved. It was like, God loves you where you are, but loves you too much to let you stay where you are, or something like that. It's kind of in those terms, and it's true. And it's kind of like a mom. I mean, you're a mom, I'm a mom, and our kids are still fairly young, and so we haven't really seen them like go through the trenches or anything. But I mean, you will love them regardless, but that doesn't mean that you want them to stay there and, you know, not listen or take a bad decision. You will always want better for them. And I think that's how God is. Like, he's a disciplinary God.
Yes.
And I feel like that's always something that's taken out. Like, they take away, instead of seeing him like an authority and like a disciplinary God, they see him as like, oh, he's loving. Like, he's just going to let everything pass.
Like, he's like my hippie friend that I hang out with every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he says he's a father.
Yeah. And I can just like remove him and go do my thing. And then I'm going to come back and he's going to be there. And I mean, he is going to be there, but that doesn't mean that he's okay with whatever choices that we have made in the past or that, you know, we can make. So, so yes.
Yeah. No, I love that you brought that up because that's something that just irks me.
Me too.
Because I'm like, have you not read about David? He loved David, but he still killed his son because he's like, you did something wrong, so I'm going to punish you.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, you shouldn't fear God. God doesn't punish. And I'm like, what Bible are you reading?
No, yeah. And I think that's where, you know, I was getting to is kind of this book is also like that. I remember starting to read it and I'm like, okay. Because I think it starts with like value all people, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
Or bring something like that. And so I'm like, okay. But sometimes it's hard. But it goes back to like, you just have to respect. Like you can respect somebody and not be around them all the time because you don't completely... It's you being around a certain person or a certain circle or environment, whatever, may not take you where you want to go. And that doesn't mean that you don't respect the people because you have to respect everybody. Like God loves everybody, but it's kind of like, it's a discernment, you know, like, okay, well, if I don't do this, then I can't spend too much time, waste too much time there. I have, you know, places to be, you know, whether, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually, and all that. So, and I think once we got to that part, I'm like, okay, it's starting to make sense. And that's kind of how the Bible is. Like, I'm in John, and I've been through a lot of, you know, stories that are like, whoa, you know? And yeah, like he does get upset and everything. And so I just think we have to look at the whole picture. But going back to balance, that was the word that got me earlier. Because personal development is more of like a, what is the word? Like all or nothing. So I feel like I was in a stage when I was going through that personal development journey that, don't get me wrong, I feel like the personal development journey made me take my spirituality to the next level because of that grit and that discipline and that sacrifice. If I connect it with him, it's like, whoa, like it has more power, I feel like, you know, as to where back then I had that hippie love where you're like, I can do whatever I want, I can be lazy, I can be this because he still loves me. And now it's more like, whoa, like, no, I have to do this even if I don't want to do, I have to pray even if I don't want to, I have to, it's all like you have to, it's like rules, you know, it's not like a how I feel type of thing on most things. And so, and I mean, we've discussed emotions and we know that they're all valid and that's a whole nother topic, but it goes back to like, well, like there's a lot of things that still need to be done. And that's why balance came in, because when I was in the personal development journey, they kind of remove balance out of the picture. And I know that when we talk about like the whole hustle mentality and it's all those like perfect examples to where it's like it's all or nothing, but I've learned through my closeness with God that he really loves balance. And when we first connected, this is my main question to you whenever we were sending voice messages over the book of, I can't think of
Diseñada desde lo alto. Was it?
That was the book, but we're talking about the Bible. Because when I got to, at that time, I was in the Old Testament, and the book of the Bible will come to me. It starts with the E. It might be
Ecclesiastes.
It might be.
Okay.
And the book talked a lot about living life. And so at that time, I think it was like a year ago around this time, I was in that book and I was mind blown because I was still very in personal development. And I was like, what is it talking about? Go out and have a drink if I don't drink. So I was very, and if I encourage you to read the Bible and you will probably have a better understanding because the Bible has so much in it. But this is the point here is balance. And I remember you telling me, because at the time I was so against balance. I'm like, well, no, all these guys are and girls are so successful and, you know, they're all or nothing. Like they don't have balance. But at the same time, like not most of them don't have a closeness with God. And God, because a lot of the times they have like a spiritual, you know, yoga, meditation, etc. But it's all self. Like it's not, you know, our creator. And so so I think balance it's huge because you do have to rest and you do have to seek him and you do have to work out and you do have to eat healthy. But if you just you can't be too much of of anything. And that's really something that I learned from you. I learned from the mastermind. And when you turn to that, I feel like everything becomes a bit more healthier because you're less aggressive with yourself. You're more like understanding, I think. And it also makes you be a little bit more like have more empathy and understand others a bit more because you understand that balance is important. So
no, and I can relate to that because I started off with personal development as well, and I went all in. Like I didn't even see my family that much. Like I was very intense. And so what you'll see what you'll see with people that do this is like they'll be like financially successful, but then their relationships are messed up, or there's something missing or whatever. Their fitness maybe, or maybe they're like fitness and finances, but then
there's always something
mentally and emotionally they're so and a lot of people will say, oh, balance doesn't exist, but I'm like, okay, if you don't like the word balance, use align. And that's the word I've been using, align, because
align,
people are
that's
like,
true.
because I'm all about balance, and I understand maybe they're not all gonna be at like 100%, but if they're at least aligned, or let's say you focus on fitness and you're like, okay, I got the routine down. Now let me focus on my mental. All right, I feel good about that. You know, you're able to, and then as you go through them all, you're like, you know, like maybe you're like 90 here, 80 here, 100 here. But you're not like 100 0.
Exactly. And now I guess it makes me look back at your whole purpose of this podcast, the 7 dimensions. It's kind of that now that it's like really clicking, you know. So it's like you have 7 dimensions, and so it's kind of rating each one, and it's more of acknowledging that there are 7 dimensions, and that you're not just financial, you're not just mental, you're not just, you know, physical, like it's everything. And that is more, I mean, it's an alignment of everything for it to correlate the way it's supposed to be.
And I love how you said, like, you learn, like, okay, I need a rest, and okay, and so personal development, they're like, you got this, you can do it, and God says, no, like, I got you, you need to depend on me. I want you to depend on me. And that's something that I learned, and that the devil, what he does is he'll give you half truths, because if he gives you a lie, you're like, that doesn't even make sense. Then he gives you
it has to make some kind of sense for you to be, like, I guess, more drawn to it, you know. Right.
You have to, like, because he'll confuse you. He's a master of confusion. So I'll use Juan as an example.
Because he's not here.
It'll be okay. He doesn't care. But I've been trying to keep the Sabbath. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I don't know if that's a thing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I read it. I mean, it's a thing. And he just says, don't be legalistic about it. So I've just been trying to keep it more in. And he's very like, do, right? And so he started doing it. And a few weeks ago, he was like, I was thinking about doing this, and this. And he was like, I listened to you, you know, I rested Saturday. And then the next day, like, the neighbor showed up out of nowhere, and he was like, hey, I want to help with the yard. He did some, I don't know what they do. They throw seeds. I don't know. Something.
Fertilizer.
Something that had been on his mind to do. The neighbor came and did it for him. Something else happened too, where, like, it got done. And he was like, it was Sunday, and it wasn't even midday, and, like, everything had gotten done. And he was like, you know, like, wow, like, you saw how God, I was like, I told you, I was like, you don't need to do it.
And this is why I'm going to link my husband with hers. I mean, no, it's true.
But they do need community.
They do. They do. So. And like, going back to this book, I mean, it just all connects. We can talk for hours. Like, you know, you do need a community, and especially when because going back to the book, it's like it also talks about the high road being the narrow road. And so, like, the world is on, I guess the word is the wide road, because everybody fits in there. Everybody's just kind of like copy and paste. Like, we all do the same, right? But if you want to be on the high road, it's narrow. Like, it's very, you know, it's not easy. It's hard, and you're not always going to be doing, like, the trendiest thing, or doing whatever your neighbor's doing, or your sibling, or whoever, because you know that it's not right. And so it all goes back to, you know, you need God to strengthen you in those moments, and you also need community, because, you know, God's not physically here, and so you need those people that are, you know, also faith driven, to get you back on those tracks. Or if you're having any doubt or going through anything, it's like, and I feel like I barely we barely connected not too long ago, but I feel like you're that person that I can just be like, hey, like, I have this question, I have this doubt. And which I feel like that's why social media can be so important, because when I saw, it can be both, and anything can be good or bad. But when I saw that you were posting that journey, it's like, oh, like, this is who I want to become. This is what I aspire. So this is somebody that I can reach out to if I have a question. So there was nobody else out there that can, answer my question from the book of Ecclesiastes. I can't even say it. But you were there to help. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's important, like, to reach out, because the road is already hard, and if you're by yourself, it can get overwhelming. And so
absolutely, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that about social media, because the other day I was thinking, so I grew my following because of fitness, pageantry, exathlon, whatever, right? So I was posting things that I don't post anymore, like, bikini pictures, whatever. Yeah. So it attracted a lot of, I'm calling them what they are, creeps.
Yes.
So I used to not like social media. Like, I don't want to say I used to not like my followers, because it was my own fault because of what I was posting. So I was, like, attracting what I was putting out, basically. And then when I changed my content, I realized I had followers like you. And then I'm like, oh, I like these people.
No, yeah. I mean, it's because what you do and how you want to be perceived matters, and that is who you're going to connect with. What you give out to the world is what you're going to get back. And that's like a 95%, because sometimes you're just going back to this book, you will get something that you're like, oh, I don't think I deserve that. But life's not fair, and that's one big, we always talk about victim mentality. Like, things are gonna happen that we don't like, and it's just life. Like, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, because it's not a perfect world. So, like, it's all like a puzzle piece. If somebody else did something wrong, it might affect you. It's kind of like if you're in the road and you're speeding and you hit somebody, like, that was your fault, but it affected somebody else, and it's just a big old thing. But yeah, so.
Man, no, but I'm really happy that I changed my content. I changed what I'm doing now. I'm happy too. And now I get to appreciate the people that are on my social media. I'm like, these are really cool women, you know, and I got to connect with you guys. It's okay. So talking about getting it more personal. Let's
real story.
Let's talk about your testimony. Yes.
Okay.
I used to think I had to hustle, perform, and look perfect to be successful, until an accident forced me to slow down. I couldn't work out, I couldn't show up online, and suddenly I had to face what was underneath it all. That season revealed something I'll never forget. I was building a life on the outside, but I was out of alignment on the inside. God used that pause to redirect me, from striving to serving, from vanity to value, and from burnout to true wellness. And now I help other women do the same. That's why I created the 7 Dimensions community. A Christ-centered community where you can finally align your spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, relational, financial, and vocational life with God's design. If you're tired of surface-level faith and scattered goals, and you know God's calling you to something deeper, this is a space for you. Join the waitlist in the description box below. Enjoy a community of women who will keep you accountable.
Hey, well, like I was saying last time, okay, so my story, I think it started with personal development, I will say. It started in 2020. So I am about to be 30 years old, and I had my children back to back. So I had one of them 2018, 2019, and 2020. And so I got married in 2017. So, I literally got married and went right into being a mom, being pregnant, being a mom. And so obviously all this time, I'm young. I was like 20, 21 at the time. I had already met my now husband, Alex, and we were just regular, not teens, but like young adults, living life, being on the wide road. A lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of late nights, a lot of DWIs, a lot of things that you look back and no, we're not proud of. I haven't. He actually has, gotten 2 before, which he's okay with me saying. But there has been a lot of things that we had went throughout that time, that maybe that's why we became parents early, because it kind of put like un freno, like it was like, hey, stop what you're doing and open your eyes and, start being responsible in some way. And so, to not make it too long,
it's okay. I want to hear all of it.
So, all of it? Yeah. Okay, so we'll go into detail. So basically, we had been dating 2 years, then got married, got pregnant right away. But now that I look back, we were a typical couple with a lot of problems. Because now that I'm in this journey, I realize most of the people around me live like this. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad, but it's so normal. Yeah. You know, like mm-hmm. the couples fighting physically, mm-hmm. Just so many issues that people go through because of jealousy, because you're drunk, the drunk nights, all this and that. And so we were that young couple that, you know, we had parties. He has a big family, so we were like at parties like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, I'm pregnant, he's drinking, there's arguments on the way back home. Like there was always something. And it was up until, so we had like a kind of like a toxic relationship for a while, I guess. Immaturities, traumas that sometimes you don't even know you have trauma, but you do. Mm-hmm. Like the way your parents treat each other, the way his parents, it just now it all connects. But at the time you're just clueless. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I going through this? The typical like victim mentality. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that really got us out of that mentality was personal development. But so it was 2019. My oldest was about 1, and I was just found out I was pregnant with my second baby. We got in a huge fight. Like family was involved. Thought I was going to leave him, but obviously God had a bigger plan. And so that was like strike 1, right? And then, which I always say, like, God calls you, he's always calling you. Mm-hmm. And every time you mess up, now that I am where I am, I feel like it was like milestones, like it was like closer mm-hmm. to him, you know? Yeah. So that was like the first milestone that in that moment, it was like my world was crashing down. Like, oh my God, I have a baby. I'm pregnant with my second. We're going through all this. And this is super raw. And I'm doing it that way because I know that a lot of people out there go through it.
Yeah, and a lot of people can relate right now. As I'm listening to you, like, I used to be in a relationship like that. Like, yeah. I feel like most women can relate.
And most women can relate. Yeah. And, like, but God is big, and I know now that he had a bigger plan for the both of us, because if you know us personally now, you'd probably be like, what? That's not Alex, you know, or that's not Luz that I know. And because we're just, like, literally who we were 5 years ago, they're dead. Like, we're completely renewed. It's completely different people.
I like saying that too.
But so yeah, I mean, that person's dead. And I think that's, you know, ever since I changed my life around, I changed my name to Luz Vero.
Did you really?
Yes, like my name is Luz Veronica, but and I love it. I love my name. But all my life I was just Luz. Oh, and then once like I made all these changes, I changed my name to Luz Vero. And then like when I meet new people, I'm like, I'm Luz Vero because Luz, I don't know her. But going back to the story, so yeah, we were going through it. And in that one big fight, I remember my mom, she's always been super spiritual. Like, she's been like our backbone in spirituality 100%. And even like my husband, like, he loves her to death, is like his second mom. And so, and it's funny because through all this, like when I would see him as like a horrible person in these fights or whatever, my mom would always tell me, and she would make me cry at the time. She would always say, you know, he's not a bad person. She was like, she would always say, the eyes are the window to the soul, and in his eyes, I know he's a great person, but he doesn't know God like I taught you him, so I need to teach him, right? No, she was like, I need my daughter to introduce him to him, that way he can change, you know? And so I don't know, like, and so all those things, I don't know if it was like God talking to me, because a regular girl's just like, oh, screw this, like, I'm out, you know?
Right, yeah.
But it was kind of like, God, are you telling me to stick around because you know something better is coming, you know? So anyway, so that was like my mom. And so that during that argument, I was not planning to cry, but she sends us off to a retreat. And I will tell you, like, that was milestone 1. That retreat completely healed our relationship. Like, if I had any resentment towards him, like, just the way that we were, like, our love was bigger. Everything was forgiven 100%, like, after that retreat. So we were, like, okay, right? But this goes back to, like, the typical, like, relationship with God, to where you're okay with him, you know him, but you don't completely change yourself and your life, and so you still do you, right? And I remember, because we grew up with retreats, like my parents would go.
So this was a church retreat?
This was a church retreat, yeah, and it was a marriage retreat, and so, it's called Jude, and it's called Juntos Unidos Dios Esposos. And so, but it was beautiful. Like, I had been to a lot of retreats in the past, but or maybe because I just needed it, like, I don't know, it was beautiful.
What do you feel stood out the most?
Oh man, like everything. Like I mean, of course there's testimonies. We heard, and then I feel God always knows, because a lot of the testimonies there were like super, super harsh. And to see the way that those couples were now, you're like, wow, you know? And then there's also a part in the retreat where you have to like dress up and you kind of like go on this big romantic date. And I just kind of feel like it was like the perfect way to like end the retreat, because you're like, okay, I forgive you, like let's be novios again, like let's go back to like the beginning, you know. I don't know, that entire retreat, like if it's forever in my heart, like seriously. And so yeah, like we came out like being healed as like a couple. But we were still the same. So when you don't change your habits, what happens? You know, you're still around your family, you're still partying, you're still drinking. And although we healed like a little part of us, I mean, we still have a lot of things that, because you know how they say alcohol will maximize who you are. So if you're a good person, you're just being more jolly. But if you have traumas, you're just going to be a worse person. And so now that we don't drink, we're able to see, looking back, that alcohol never made us better. Like every time that we drank, it just made us like jealous, you know, mad, fights. Like it wasn't making us better people. And when I think about all of my bad decisions, I was under the influence of alcohol. And so that's why it's been, I think, 4 years now that we don't drink. So but yes, so we were still living that life and surrounded by the same people all the time, like 24/7. And so what would happen is that, you know, me and him were healed, but we were still making dumb decisions. And so like we were okay up until we would be surrounded by all the people.
Like what you said earlier.
Exactly.
Whoever's around you, really.
So like we're at home and like we're okay, we're loving this and that. We continue, because we always go to church. Like every week, it was always, ever since we were dating. And so, but then you go and you surround yourself here, and then boop, like it just goes out the window, right? But that is such a thing though. Like I remember growing up, because we would go to retreats, and the number one thing that a family member would tell another family member to convince them to go to a retreat, it was this. They would always say, don't worry, like no te preocupes, like you don't have to change anything. You're gonna go and you're gonna have a beautiful experience with God, but you don't have to change nothing. You're going to come out, you're going to be the same person, you can still drink, you can still do your life. And so and so they just kind of say, okay, I'm down. They go, they have an amazing experience, and it literally lasts, you know, it's like magic dust, that like you get out and it's gone, because the world is still the same, and you haven't made different habits, different decisions, so life is going to consume you back in. And so that's kind of how we lived our life up until 4 or 5 years ago. And so we would go to the parties, and every time there was a party, he would get super drunk, like he didn't know what he was doing. We would get into fights, and mind you, our kids are little, you know, I was like pregnant back to back, so I was either pregnant most of the time and so on. And then my second child is born. I get pregnant with my third, and at this time we're like 2 years, 3 years married, and my second gets diagnosed with craniosynostosis. So that was milestone number 2 for me. So that was something that I was not expecting. Basically, it's the child's skull is sealed. So like, I mean, I don't know if you know, but like right now, Mighty Miguel, his little skull is still soft, because it's going to continue to grow. Like his little brain is like this, and it's going to be growing as he grows. And so that is why his skull needs to be like soft and not sealed. And they call them sutures. So like there's one running up and down sagittal. There's one right here in the forehead. There's 5 of them. There's one in the back. Like there's 5, not to be all scientific, but point is, his were sealed. So that means that there was no way of expansion.
God. Okay, so, now I'm understanding, because before you used the words and I was like, I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's kind of like your skull's like this, and it just has to keep opening, and his was like this. And so, like, his brain was getting bigger, and, you know, he wasn't, or his skull wasn't. And so it can be dangerous, although the doctors painted it like it was, you know, it's not a big deal. And so he just gets a surgery and all that. But coming from somebody that I had never experienced this, I was clueless about what it was a big hit for us.
Absolutely.
As a young couple.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And I was, when he got diagnosed, I was already pregnant with my third. It was February, so I was like 6 months pregnant. And when he had the surgery, I was 8. And this was 2020, like COVID. I had to do it all by myself because it was like only one parent could be in the room basically. And so I was like, well, me, because he wants his mom, you know. And there was a part of me that he was like, if you want, I'll go, but I'm like, no, like he's gonna look for me. And it was so hard. Like I look back and like going back to the picture that you always talk about, that where he sustained you, the fingerprints.
Oh yeah.
Like that, you know, it was there's
The footprints.
there's four footprints and then there's two because he was carrying you. Okay. That's literally how it felt. Like I was huge during, you know, the recovery, and I couldn't pee, I couldn't eat, like I just had to be with him because he was all full of tubes and connections. And well, he was like 9 months, so he was in a crib. He didn't like the crib, and I just had to be holding him, but it was hard. I remember because he was there for 4 days. On the third day, I was like, okay, I need a shower because I just need like a breath of fresh air. And I mean, it was also COVID, so like the nurses were there wasn't many nurses, so I remember he would bring me food, and sometimes he'll just leave it down there. Like nobody could bring it to me, and I couldn't go get it. Like it was it was a lot. And so I remember just like getting in the shower and counting to like 20. And I don't know how I took my clothes off, got in there, showered, and got out, but I was out. And it was because he took a nap, and I was like, let me go in there, and poof, you know, but I just needed it. But that was milestone number 2, him being diagnosed with that. It was really hard because it was a complete open skull surgery. So like they cut his head open from ear to ear, like all the way. And they have to basically break his skull. Like they break, they break his skull.
Like as a mom, I can't imagine what you were feeling, and then on top of that, pregnant.
Yeah, I was pregnant, so I was like,
and then doing it alone, basically.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, like I think people that really know me, my husband especially, I consider myself pretty tough. Like, you know, I have my moments where I break, but they're very limited, you know? And so, and I mean, now that I'm more closer to God, I feel like I cry more than I used to, but, but at the time, you know, I was just so like in shock that it was happening, but I also know that he was also calling me home. And because he went through that diagnosis, I remember making my promise to God along with my husband and just saying, like, you know, if my son can get through this, like, I promise you that I'm going to be a better person. Because deep down, like, we all know our flaws and we all know our weaknesses. And I guess knowing, like, how I grew up, how my parents are, how my grandparents are, there was always a part of me that I didn't like, you know, that you just want to be better. And not just like me noticing it and being like self-aware, but I had a lot of issues growing up, like with my parents and my siblings, where I was always like that ugly duckling that they were just like, it's because you this, it's because you that. Like, you know, like, I was always in trouble, basically.
Oh, okay.
I was always like in trouble. I was always getting into stuff. And so it was just kind of like, man, like maybe I just need to, like see, like if because you know how they say if everybody's telling you the same thing, there's probably a little bit of truth in it. It was one of like those things, like they didn't mean to pick at me. I mean, I was really doing things wrong, you know. And so now I see it. But so yeah, so I kind of promise I'll do things different, you know, this and that. And I didn't know that was gonna lead to like me not drinking. But this happens 2020. He comes out successfully from the surgery.
Praise God.
Yes, praise God. And so I kind of, you know, he called me home. We were doing much better, changing, you know, for the better for the kids. And that time he was about going back to, we're still around the same people, but you keep like, he's knocking at my door harder, you know, but I'm still in the same environment. So it's harder. And this is why I always tell people your environment is everything. Like if it takes you 2 years to change, you know, just an example, but if you remove yourself from these environments, you'll get there so much quicker. Like you and God by yourself. If you're married, you, God, and your partner, like you will get there so much faster. Because when you're in the wrong environments, you will take 1 step forward and 4 steps back.
Yeah.
Like that's literally how it was for us. It was like you would go to church on Sunday, the lecture would hit, and then boom, we're at a family party and everything goes down the drain, you know? And so
something I heard, since you're talking about that, people will justify who they hang out with, saying like, oh, Jesus hung out with sinners. But Jesus said, don't sin again.
And he was perfect. So
yeah.
he
But
wasn't
also,
going to...
it, like the sinners didn't keep doing what they were doing.
That's
you
true.
see what I'm saying? Like,
he was
they were
influencing
sinners,
them.
but he was like, okay, I forgive you, don't sin again. And then that's who he would hang out with, like the new people that they were.
Right.
Not like their old selves.
And I guess that's actually powerful because it also goes back to, like, you can't save those around you. So as you're in your growth journey, hang out with those people, but see how much they want to change, and then you'll want to remove yourself eventually because you're like, okay, you know,
because there might be someone in your circle that's like, hey, I see what you're doing, you know, and they might want to come along for the journey.
Exactly.
But then there's going to be people who
but
are
the majority
is going to drag you down. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's very true. And so so yeah, your environment is so important. So at this time, you know, I made the promises, but I'm still in the same environment, and we fall again. So our son was post-op like May, June, July, like 4 months. And this is the one drunken night that I will never forget. It was my last one. And we just have a typical, you know, carne asada, like a little barbecue with some close family. And because we had just signed for our house that we had bought in the area, we no longer live there, but it was like a little celebration type thing.
Oh, okay.
So they come along, and this goes back to, like, when you don't have, like, boundaries, when you don't have limits, like, when you just out just being wild, like, there's somebody supposed to come out for dinner, but you just have no stop. Like, they show up at 6 and they left at 6 a.m.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Because there was no stop. And I'm not blaming these people. Like, this is what I was allowing. This is what I wanted 100% in this moment, you know? And so, but this was the last one because, again, like, God, you know, conviction. Like, conviction is so real, and it's a form of him calling you too. Because as you're conscious, if you feel very, very bad, I mean, he can't come and physically talk to you, so he's going to come to your heart and make you feel bad for whatever you're doing, because if you love him, you're going to hate your sin, you know? And that's basically what happened. And my sin in this moment, as I'm speaking, it was me drinking and having and making bad decisions. So this was another calling where we had this get together, and we're completely Ay, cosita, I'm sorry, he just has to.
Yeah. He's hungry. Oh, I heard him crying. I don't want to interrupt you. No. But okay, we're going to take a break real quick. I know you guys are like, no.
On the cliff.
Yeah. But we'll be back, I promise.
See you soon.
Yeah. All right, we are back. So the baby's fed and asleep now. All right, so continuing your testimony. So you were telling me about your last drunken night.
Yes, right. So taking it back, so I would call that last drunken night. Let me fix this. I think, is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So that last drunken night would be milestone 3. Okay. So we had the big fight with family involved. Went to a retreat. Then my second child was diagnosed with craniosynostosis. We overcame that. Praise God. Still in the same environment, and so, you know, although I made these promises to God and told him that I was going to change, here we are again because we're surrounded by the same people. So this last drunken night, seriously, I don't remember much of it at all, like, shamefully. And all I know from this event that stood so much to me is that I was literally, like, hungover for, kid you not, like 4 or 5 days. But it was like, it was a spiritual hungover. Like, it's weird. Like, it was a conviction straight to the heart. Like, I felt horrible, but, like, from all, like, physically, mentally, just spiritually. And I remember because through that night, I had my baby. I had 2 of my boys, but my oldest went with my mom. So I had 2 of the 3. And so I was in communication with my mom because, you know, I was going to pick up my boy and so on. And so I remember the next day, because this happened on a Saturday, so, like, on Sunday, just me, like, I kept telling my husband, you know, at the time, I guess he didn't really, like, see the conviction that I was receiving, but it was huge. Like, I felt like a zombie the whole day. Like, I didn't eat. Like, I wouldn't stop crying. Like, I just felt horrible. And it's so, like, it's, like, easier to say, but it's just so huge how it actually felt, you know, because it was a legit calling. And so
and that's the Holy Spirit in you.
Yes. Yeah. Like, it was just so bad. Like, in that, I remember that entire day, like, it was like a normal day. My mom still, you know, kept the oldest because I felt horrible. We had the two, and we're just kind of like being bumps at home, like recovering from, you know, the drunken night, which is another reason why we're not big on the drinking, because it's just so like wasteful. Like, you waste time doing it, and then you waste time after recovering, and it's just a nonstop like toxic cycle. But so I remember just kind of like bumming around, watching TV, like not really eating because I'm so nauseous and whatsoever. So, but I remember that the whole day, my mom's words just kept repeating, because I mean, I was always a drinker back then, and my mom hated it because my mom does not drink like at all. So my mom's extremely happy about us not drinking anymore. She's like so proud of that. But and maybe she was just praying about this for a very long time, because mom's prayers are just so powerful. But all of her words were just like a broken record in my head that entire day. It was just like, she used to always tell me like, drinking is not ladylike, like what are you doing, like you're a mom, it's just like, you know, you don't do that, like this is not who you are. And it was just all that mom conviction that, you know, they just do. And now I understand. And so I remember that I called her, and those words were played in my mind all day, but I was kind of like pushing them to the side. And it wasn't up until like the night, maybe it was like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. when I finally just like bursted out and I reached out. And, you know, going back to like, I'm still not fully transformed, so I have a little bit of an ego, like I don't really show my emotions, you know, so it was a big deal for me to reach out and just like pour my heart out. Because I remember I called her, and when she answered, I was quiet, but it's because I had like a knot, like I couldn't speak. And she's like, mija, like she doesn't even know that I'm having the conviction. She's like, hello, and I'm just like you know. And then like eventually I just pour out, and like I could just say a few words like, I'm sorry, you know. And then I can hear her like crying, because I guess she kind of like I guess she kind of like understood like where it was going, you know, because I day 2 still haven't picked up my kid, like because I'm just going through the motions, you know.
And you still have your other two, right?
Yeah, and I still have my, because at the time, like, the third one was, like, 6 months, so it's a baby, you know, it still needs me. Yeah. I was breastfeeding at the time, and then, which obviously that night I didn't, but, and then my middle child, he was, like, a year and, like, 2 months, so they were still fairly little, and so they needed a little bit less attention than, like, my 2-year-old now, like, all over the place, so... Yeah, but I remember, like, just having a knot and just everything pouring out, like, just in tears, like, mumbling, like, I'm so sorry, like, I finally get it, you know, like, I promise you. I remember that day I promised not to get drunk again. So it started with promising God, like, I'm going to be a better person, but then he makes me, like, reach rock bottom in this last drunken night. I get so bad to where I will no longer crave it anymore, you know? Yeah. And so I remember that night, I was like, Mom, like, I promise you I will never get drunk again. And I remember telling her, like, you know, I like the flavor, like, you know, I like to drink, but I just won't get drunk. Like, I'll have 1 or 2, but I will never, like, leave you my kids to do these irresponsibilities. Yeah. And she was, you know, that's just, like, part of the conversation, but it was long, and she was just crying, and I guess just kind of, like, feeling, like, a relief. Like, although she was, like, not proud that she still had my kid, and, like, I did this, but I guess happy that I was convicted and that maybe we were on the right road. Yeah. And so, so like, that happened, and don't get me wrong, like, I had never done that, and so after I hung up with her, I felt so much relief. Like, in a way, I felt a little better because I had poured out my heart to her, and I had the self-awareness to see that this was wrong, you know? And I guess that's kind of like how confessing your sins and, like, turning to God feels. It's just like, okay, let's take a breather, let's move forward, let's be better, right? So, so yeah. But again, conviction is always important, and disciplinary God was there to, like, not allow me to feel good in my sin, because you're not supposed to, otherwise I wouldn't have changed, right? And so, you know, fast forward, I pick up my son, life keeps flowing, but like a week after that drunken night, we closed on our house, and so we moved. And this is the end of 2020, and right at the beginning, well, this was October 2020, and then December 2020, my older brother starts doing life insurance. And so I remember it literally being at the end of the year. I'm already moved out into the house, and, like, we're a little better because we're a little further away, and we're just kind of, like, you know, more into our zone, not really going too much, but there's still no reason behind it. It's just kind of like me still convicted, wanting to be better. And so It all connects when my brother starts doing life insurance, and he just starts sharing with me, like, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And then I just start getting intrigued, right? I no longer sell life insurance, but in that moment, that was milestone 4. Because through life insurance, I was introduced, and well, obviously with my husband, he didn't do it, but we were in the loop together. We were introduced to personal development, which was a subject that was mind-blowing to me. Like, in my life, had I heard so many truths just getting slapped in the face in a seminar. It was like a convention or whatever. So he talks about life insurance to me December 2020, and I just go for it because I'm like that. Like, I'm just like I just throw myself at things even if I'm scared. And so he was like, like, maybe you should try it. Like, you have the personality, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, send me the course. I'll look at it. Well, here I am, like, January, February, just studying. I take the test, I believe at the beginning of February, and I passed it. Well, I took it 3 times, but that's another story. And so I passed it, right? Yeah. And so right when I passed it, there was like a convention, and I remember it fell on his birthday, on Alex's birthday, February 5th of 2021. He was like, well, it should probably be a good idea for us to go. He's like, I'm already going because he already does it. He was like, come along and just kind of get in the flow of things since you're about to do it. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So we all went with the group of other like people that were doing that. And that seminar was milestone 4. I had never heard like speakers, like personal development. I had never read book in my life besides like Junie B. Jones in elementary, like seriously, because I used to love reading when I was little, but I had never read a book with value, like something that will really transform my life. And maybe now with social media, it's a little bit more hypey and more people are able to like reach that. But I feel like back in the day, it wasn't as big. Right, and so you're just stuck in your circle and your world and how you're raised. And you think that that's your only reality. Like, you don't even think it's possible to have something outside of what your parents are doing, your siblings, your cousins, whoever's around you, Yeah. And so that seminar, I remember taking Alex, and he was much more close-minded than me at the time. And he was just like, we were just grabbing ourselves to the seat like, whoa, I do that. Whoa. Like, these people are talking about how does your car look like? How does this? Like, do you work out? Like, just so many just deep truths. So like those hard truths that I'm like, whoa, guilty. Whoa. But it was very intriguing. Like, we really liked it. So from that was like the window to like, okay, now I know these personal development people. So then my following slowly on social media started changing. I wasn't following like just my high school friend or my neighbor. It was like all these people that were doing something with their life. And, although they may or may not have been super spiritual, but they were in that world. And that was something that took our life to where it is now. And so with that, I started doing the life insurance. Sorry. It's okay. And so I started doing the life insurance after that seminar, and all the words that we heard that day. I remember that whole time I was just on my notes, and I still to this day, I have those notes on my phone. And I look back and I'm like, wow. And the keynote speaker was usually the ones that go hard in the conventions, and his name is Dave Anderson. And I remember I went through his entire podcast, like in that 2021 year, and I was just mind blown. Like, everything that he was telling me, I was like, okay, whatever he said, it was like, check, I'm gonna do it. Like, we were just really, that's the year that we completely locked in. Like, and it kind of like it all flew in. It was all flowing in because we had just like moved to that house a little further from like the family. And then we get into this personal development. I'm selling insurance, so I'm already busy as it is. Like, I'm going to appointments, this and that. And then he's helping with the kids, and it's just all as he's working. So we were just kind of, busy schedule, not too much time. And so when there was time and there was a party, we wouldn't go. Because we're like, well, we just started this diet and I have my meal prep. Like, I can't eat, X, Y, and Z. Or I'm also stopped drinking. So what's the point? And like, you just start seeing life differently. Like, what is the point? Yeah. Like, I'm going to go sit at a table with, so-and-so and so-and-so and gossip. I'm going to have some drinks. I don't drink anymore. I'm going to have food. And I'm going to do all these little things that are so normal for people and feel horrible the next day. Right. Yeah. And so we just, for that literally 2021, we went to no one's birthday, no one's anything. Like we were just at home doing our thing, taking turns, working out. He would go work out, then I would go. And in that year, he dropped 40 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was like close to the 200 pounds. And and then he went down to like 150. I don't know. He was like 190. I know it was 40 pounds. So he went down to like the 150s. And we were, everybody was just kind of like, okay, they're like locked in doing whatever the heck they're doing. But I will say though, in this early journey, we got blocked by family members really early on in the journey.
I was going to ask you, what was their reaction to all this?
A lot of them don't say much. They just, if you block me, you didn't like it much. But I think when you're wanting to do things better, I don't think it should matter. And if I was blocked, then that means I didn't need that person in my life. You know what I mean? Like, but early on very early, some people didn't even, we always say, no aguantaron nada, like so early on the journey, like it's barely getting excited. and they blocked me like few months in, but yeah, and some people barely did, a few, weeks ago, months ago, but it is so part of the journey. But it needed to be done, because if you ask me right now, like, okay, do you still want to have the same circle but live the way you lived? I would tell you no, like without blinking. But it was a cost. It was a sacrifice. Like I had to let go of that to be here, be sharing my story, to be where I'm at in this peaceful state of mind. And that doesn't mean, because disclaimer, like, doesn't mean I'm perfect, and it doesn't mean that I don't have struggles. Like I have them all the time. Like I'm a mom of 3, I'm a wife, I'm human. But like I always tell my kids, and I always say it on my social media, I believe it's like, con todo con Cristo, like todo con Dios. I can do it all with God. Like I can do it all through Him, who strengthens me. And that doesn't mean that I don't have my bad days, but I always say, like, my bad days don't make me. And I think that's the difference. I will never say I'm depressed or anxious, because I could have had a sad moment.
Right.
I mean, getting my kids all in the car at once I'm anxious in that moment. But it's like, it's a survival mode. I'm trying to get everybody in, but I don't have anxiety. It's just that moment, but probably off topic. But yeah, so I just think that seminar, that was a big eye opener. We locked in, and, we would literally show up to when we would visit, because we always kept it to where our parents, like, okay, we may not be going anywhere, but we'll see our parents. And I remember it was a hit, because my mother-in-law, her love language is cooking. And I probably fell in love with her son because of the way she cooks. And I would go there and I would eat and eat and eat, because she cooks amazing. And when I started this journey, it was like from 0 to 100. Like I would show up and I would say, I'm so sorry, I have my food. She wouldn't say anything. I don't know how her little heart took it, but it was just like those things that is like, I'm sorry, I either go on this road or on that road. And I think this goes back to the book. It's like, what do you want? What do you want from your life? Like, what do you want to do with your life? And some of them takes hard conversations and hard decisions. Like, you do things being misunderstood. Like, you do things, without, it's not going to make sense to people if they don't see the vision that, like, you have, or what do you want for yourself, and you just have to keep doing it even if you stand alone. So I think once personal development hit, it was just a ball of like getting closer to God, connecting it with God, through that 2021, 2022, we came across Andy Frisella. We did 75 hard. I didn't finish it. I got to like day 40 something. It was between 35 and 45. I can't remember. I think my kids were little. Someone got sick. And so we didn't finish. But because of 75 hard, we always, that challenge is special to us, which I'm actually on it now. I'm on day 30 and I'm enjoying it so much more than I did the first time. But through that challenge, we decided to stop drinking, because in that challenge, you cannot drink through the challenge. And so when we were able to do it for that many days, it was like, that was milestone 5. The 75 hard was number 5, because it was like, okay, so if you can stop drinking for 75 hard, why can't you just stop drinking? Like, if you went 45 days without drinking and you were fine, then you can just stop. But I feel like that was just God talking to me. And I remember at the time we had like a home gym, and I was working out, and again, the Holy Spirit, because I think I was working out to like worship music or something. And I come in and I tell Alex, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop drinking, like that's it. And he was like, really? Okay, cool, let's try it. Like it was just so like
Natural.
it was natural.
Yeah.
And then we just started, like, he was like, okay, but we have to make it an identity, like we have to say we don't drink. Because if you just say, and it's powerful, because there was, you know, if we went to like a, you know, a get together or whatever, and you say, oh no thank you, because why do you say that? Because you're embarrassed, because what are they gonna think, because I drank last week. So, you know, it's like you don't fully believe that you're capable, so you're gonna say, oh no thank you, and what are they gonna do? Oh, come on, ándale, like, you know, you want to blah blah blah. But when you set a boundary and you're like, I don't drink, then they're like, oh, okay. You know, they may try a little bit, but it's like you already gave yourself that identity. So even though they might look at you crazy, like, well, what do you mean? You used to love it. But it's kind of like I don't know. It speaks with more authority, I feel like.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, but if we do it, we have to do it. We have to make it like an identity. And I was like, okay, I agree. So we just started showing up saying, we don't drink. And we were looked at crazy a few times. Well, I mean, obviously early on, because if you're 1 month in and like 30 days ago you were like cheering, you know, with the shots, so it's kind of like, but yeah. And so it just kind of kept going from there, and here we are 4 years in. And yes, of course, you know, at the beginning se te antoja, like you want to, you crave it, like, you know, you think about it, but I just think it's just temptation, like it's the enemy. And of course, like, and which also brings you to like why you separate yourself, because it's like, okay, if I don't drink, why am I gonna be and this is constantly, you know, because yes, like now we know balance, and after meeting you we come around a little bit more, and I'm telling you, it's all thanks to you, because it brought me to that balance, like, okay, it's not all or nothing, you know, I can come around and just like set my boundaries. But of course, as we spoke in the past,
but I just want to say, it's not me, it's God.
It's God.
Yes.
It is. But God really,
I can't take his credit.
But God has really, like, if you know Brianda, you know, if you've been at her masterminds, if you follow her, like, he really is working through you.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, I was hyping my husband about coming today, and I'm so glad that the boys are getting along down there. But no, but yeah, and so, you know, through that journey, we went from like all or nothing to like being more in the balance and all that. But I won't say that the all or nothing in its moment was needed, because absolutely. You know how we had talked about the whole solitude. Well, that time of solitude, all or nothing, is what shaped us to be able to create the new identity, to be brave with it, and to come around now and say, no, thank you. I'm leaving. It's 7 p.m., but we're leaving. You know, no, we're not staying. Or we don't tolerate X, Y, and Z. Or, you know what I mean? And so...
You know what? I just thought of this when you called it solitude. It made me think Jesus went on that journey.
He went on that journey, yeah.
40
and
days.
He fasted.
Yes. Before he went on his ministry.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, good connection. But yeah, and so I feel like in that moment, like, by all means, because I guess nobody really knows besides me and him, like, in that journey, like, we weren't like worried about anybody, like, in a negative way. Like, we were just so, it was like such a shock. Like, I can't believe we've been doing this all wrong. Like, it's nobody's fault, because clearly in the personal development world, victimhood is out of the window. It's out. It's like, it's you. And we were just like, wow. Like, it was just so interesting. It was just so much knowledge. Like, you're like, oh my God, like, we can literally have a better life. Like, what? You know? And while you're barely introduced to this, you're like on cloud 9. Like, you're like, oh my God, you know? And you can't even go around telling the world, because they won't understand it, and you'll just feel crazy. It's kind of like when you get close to God and you want to tell everybody, not everybody's going to truly understand, like, what you felt when the Holy Spirit spoke to you, etc. And so I think in that moment, we were just kind of like, behind scenes, we were like crazy, you know, reading this, reading that, doing this, doing that. And then we would kind of expose ourselves a little bit, but not too much. And I mean, really, we would do it for the sake of our parents. Like, let's go see our parents, and then boom, like, let's sleep, you know, like back in our little cave to like getting more. And now I feel like now there has been so much healing, and we're so far from where we want to be, which I think is why it's such a blessing to have connected with you, because I feel like you and with God, I'll be able to get there. I know for sure. And, but I think now we're able to go back and like maybe pour a little bit, even though some people, it still bothers them, irritates them, etc. But I think we have built that identity to be able we have like my little brother always says you're a credible source now, you know what I mean, like it's more of like, oh, okay, like, well, they were talking this but they're doing it, so okay, you know what I mean. So they went away but now they're back and it's not the same person, so I guess I get why they went away, whether they like it or not, but you know. And so so I think it's all been a journey, and then you would be milestone 6. So it's literally like where it was kind of like, okay, personal development you know, got you to form yourself here, and now rely on me. So don't believe the lie of just you, and go back to me. Like, you need me to strengthen your marriage, for your kids, you know, all that. And so now I feel like I'm on a new journey of just doing everything with God, because I was going through just a solo ride. So that's why I say I don't think I'm there yet, because now I just I want to surrender. Like, I'm at a point of like, I just want to surrender and just like, whatever he wants me to do, I just want to do it with him. And I know when I initially reached out, I wanted to do, like, I was doing the whole like putting videos and podcasts and this and that. But that was when I was like in the all or nothing phase, you know? And it's crazy that I reach out to you and then I completely stopped doing it. It's life. Like, I moved far away, and then, like, God just used that time to literally slow me down. Like, he took away the me wanting to do that, but I think it's because he wants to prepare me. And then that's when we just click. Like, you reach out about your mastermind, and I just think it's all connecting. But if I can connect my entire testimony, it would be those 6 milestones.
I'm so honored to be a part of it.
You being the last one, because I know that this is like, we're going to like another level, and I want to do it with my husband. And I think that's why, like, because at the end of the day, all relationships, one is always going to be like foot forward in different things, you know. And I'm sure you can maybe relate with, you know, with your husband, that we're always walking, you know, trying to walk in the same way, but someone's weaker or someone's stronger. And I think when it comes to faith, like I mentioned, you know, I kind of led him there. Well, God helped me to lead him there. And now I want to do it even more, so that he can he can be the leader spiritually. I always say, like, I want that. Like, it's my biggest, like, anhelo. So like, my biggest desire for him to be, you know, that leader spiritually. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't already have a relationship, but it's just literally surrendering and taking it to the next level. And when we have like difficult moments, I always look back and I'm like, I really think just God wants us to just call it quits and surrender and just do just like you and Juan are doing, you know, and just taking it to the next level, giving up whatever it is. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want life to go that direction now, because I already know the other way. I've already come a long way personally, but I feel like healing wise with God, like, that journey, you're never fully finished, and that's what I want to like completely focus on.
Yeah, I love that. Oh,
yes,
I'm so proud of you.
No, yeah. And I have never, like, literally never, me and my husband, we always talk about our story. Like, we're always talking about it, you know, but we don't really like go out much or talk to much people, and so nobody's ever really heard it. And and when I said it that day, it was so natural. Like, I just wanted to talk about craniosynostosis. But the fact that you told me, like, this is your testimony, like, you need to share it, I really felt like it was God. Because I've always said, like, what is my story? Like, is that even valuable? Like, does that help? Like, because when I look, when I look back, I'm just like, I mean, I went through this, but, you know, like, it's not that interesting or something. But I feel like it doesn't have to be heroic. I just think it's so real. Like, what I went through, it wasn't like something major, but this is the norm for a lot of people. And they stay stuck there because they think that there's no better way, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and it might not seem like this, like you said, this major deal, but it's a huge deal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it was God for sure, because the baby usually falls asleep when I'm podcasting. And he was just, he was fussing. Yeah, I was like, and I had been stuck because before that, I tried to do it with Juan, the book, and then it wasn't flowing at all. Like, we were looking at each other, and I'm like, it's not. I'm like, I don't know what it is. He's like, I don't either. He's like, you want to try another day? I was like, okay. And then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Let me ask the girls from the mastermind. They actually read the book, because he was like, not that he wasn't like helping, he was because he's like a natural born leader, so like he has things to say, but it was God. Like, it just wasn't
Yeah.
flowing. And then, you know, I reached out. You said yes. And then you come over, and then God's like, no, that's not what I want you to talk about.
Yeah, it literally turned in like a little counseling session. Because I mean, like, it's actually funny too, though, because it's like, you probably didn't know about me because I knew about you because through, you know, everything that you were doing. So I think maybe once or twice I had seen you in person, and this was way before your transformation too, like spiritual journey. But we had never spoken in person. So it's like, I know of her, but I don't know her. And then we do everything virtually. So like, we'll text, we'll see each other in the camera, but we had never met in person until that day. And it just turned into like a bonding time.
Like,
and
it
then,
felt like I already knew you.
yeah, it's crazy. That's true. And it's also crazy because whenever you texted about who wanted to record, I have always told my husband, well, ever since I kind of had the desire to do this and like the whole podcasting, I'm like, one day I want to be on her podcast or do something with her, you know. But I said it very naturally, like not even thinking anything of it, and look where we are, you know.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm really so honored that well, everything you said, and then also like the fact that you're sharing your testimony here for the first time. And I know it's gonna
in the perfect place, honestly, because it feels like home. My husband's like, how do you feel? I'm like, it's just flowing. It's literally just flowing. Like, I would have never thought that I would be on my first podcast saying my story and not talking about something else, you know. So I truly, from my heart, it wasn't even hard to speak about it. It was just so real how it happened. And I just hope if it can touch someone's heart that there is a better way, you know, like what you see in your household, you know, like our parents love us and they didn't know better, you know, but we know better, and we have access to so much now that with, you know, holding God's hand, like we can do so much and just be different for our kids, you know, and just break those curses, which is like, I'm not completely there yet, but I'm at least a lot better than like what I was taught, you know, and just keep going from there. But you can get unstuck for sure.
And he keeps saying, I'm not there yet. And I don't know that we'll ever get there. But as long as we keep...
You're on the journey. Right.
I think that's what matters. I think when you're there, it's like when we get to meet Jesus, I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Before we go, is there anything else you want to share? Or anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
I just want to say thank you to you for having me. It's been an honor. I really, truly hope that whoever needs to hear this listens to this episode. Whoever is behind, you know, the screen and is listening to this, God loves you. You are much more, you know, powerful with Him than you are without Him. And you can change your life through Him. Like, I promise it is possible. Yeah.
And I feel like your testimony is the perfect example of what a high road leader is. Like, you taking the high road. Like, everything that the book says, you basically did.
And thank you for pointing that out, because through this entire journey, and I mean, I guess it happens to everybody, but I've always feel like I'm not doing enough. And like, especially when going back to the subject of being misunderstood, sometimes when you stand alone and do things different on your own, you're not going to always feel like you're on the high road. Like, it's not going to feel pretty because you're alone. Like, nobody understands. And you're making hard decisions. And going back to everything I spoke about, not everybody's going to agree. So it may feel lonely and it may feel ugly, but you're on the right track.
Yeah. And Paul says it's an honor, or something along those lines. Like, it was an honor for him to be suffering, for him to be in jail, for him to, you know, all because he was spreading the gospel. So, yeah, it's not going to feel nice, it's not going to feel pretty, and it's not going to be easy, but it is the best road to take. And
like they say, choose your heart, and this heart has better rewards than the heart that the world leads you to that wide road. So
absolutely,
the wide road is easier, has no perks at the end, and the narrow road is harder, but the rewards at the end are much greater.
Yeah, so it's basically like suffer now and then get your reward later, or get your reward now and then suffer later.
That is true.
Yeah. Where can they find you?
So if you want to find me, I share more of my day-to-day life is on Instagram. It's at Luz Vero with 2 O's. And you can also find me on TikTok, official Luz Vero.
And then I'll also share the links in the description box. Yeah. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for listening. If you liked it, give it a like. Share it with someone who you think might need to hear this. This is a powerful testimony. I know there are a lot of women out there who are going through the same things. I know this because they tell me their stories, and what you see on social media, you know, everyone's life looks so perfect, but then you sit down and you talk to them and you're like, man,
Yep.
I'll be praying for you, you know? So share it with someone. I know someone out there's going to hear this, and I'm praying that, you know, they come to God when they hear your testimony.
Me too.
Yeah, so like I said, share it, give it a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Yay!